It feels so odd looking at this whole expansion as two different things because you have to finish the Isle of Armor just to even play Crown Tundra in the first place. When I thought about how to talk about my experience here, I tried not to compare too much with the Isle of Armor, but I think it's really necessary to get the entire picture. And without saying too much about the Isle of Armor, I have to admit that the Crown Tundra is much better in comparison. What I really liked about the Isle of Armor was how it set up this story that flows from beginning to end, but it felt like it was really quick, way too quick. And I honestly haven't touched Pokemon Sword since I finished Isle of Armor just because it didn't really offer much content to keep me playing more and more. And that first part of the expansion felt like it was made solely to add the max suit and some other battle features, and of course the story part of it was pretty decent, not gonna lie. But me being someone who was interested in Pokemon Sword not for the battles and the IVs, EVs, natures, all that competitive stuff, it was a really light appetizer in this full course of DLC. Hell, it wasn't even like an appetizer, it was more like a piece of garnish on a plate that was served to me. Granted, the garnish was decent, but it was definitely not filling. But then we get to the Crown Tundra, and I have to say, this isn't just some juicy piece of porterhouse steak, but it is definitely a well-crafted meatloaf with some pretty good side dishes that slap. And I've said this before, but Pokemon Sword, the base game, didn't really do it for me in the story department. My absolute favorite feature was the max raids because it added that extra bit of co-op and it allowed us to catch G-Max Pokemon that at the time were harder to come by. But then one thing I low-key hated about Isle of Armor was how it made raiding much less interesting because you could just breed whatever Pokemon you wanted to G-Max and use the soup when it was ready. So instead of you going out there to do these max raid battles in order to catch a G-Max Charizard, you could just raise your own Charmander, make it shiny, make it perfect IVs, and just feed it G-Max soup and you will have your G-Max Charizard in enough time. And although the process of that is very much more time consuming, doing those G-Max raids just didn't feel as special as they used to. Fast forward to what we have now, and the best feature of this game gets brought back with something great for everybody. Not only can we catch legendary Pokemon, but we use random Pokemon, gather up unique teams, and the best part is that the shiny rates are ridiculously high. Shiny hunting was the only other thing besides raids that I cared to do during the end game, which led me to finish my Pokedex and get the shiny charm. And now that the max layers are out, the odds of getting a shiny through a full run of this is boosted up to 1 out of 25, supposedly, with a shiny charm. Now the reason it's so high is because it's actually 1 out of 100, but because you have 4 different Pokemon to choose from at the end of your max layer, it's actually split up between the 4, so it's 1 out of 25. And it goes to show because I've seen plenty of people getting shiny legendary Pokemon of their own, and it is such a delight to see. And although I didn't get a shiny legendary, I actually did get one of those shiny Pokemon from the max raid layers during a test stream I did where I did a couple max raids and I got a shiny Dunsparce. Even though it's not the most exciting shiny to get, it's still a shiny and I think it's a good thing. I saw a sparkle. I knew. And of course, outside of the max layer, the expansion offers something that you don't see a ton of within the main games, and I'm hoping that going forward, we see a lot more of this. Of course, I won't spoil all the details here, but this DLC has missions for us to complete in this new area, and each mission comes with its own little story and side missions. And I would love to see Pokemon adopt more of these elements we see in bigger RPG games, and having these non-linear story missions is definitely going in the right direction. The mission I chose to focus on first was the mission with Calyrex, but I ended up going back and forth between the Reggie and the legendary bird quest for the rest of the game. Now one thing I did have an issue with, and it's a very minor issue mind you, but that was finding the tracks for the Reggies, even though it didn't seem like it was all that necessary. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it was anything hard, it's just one of those things that reminded me of how bad some of the ground textures in this game can be at times. It's like Game Freak decided to make that little reminder a constant theme of this entire expansion because of the Reggie tracks and the Diglett hunts. And going back to the story missions for a second, I have to say I wish that these were actually part of the main storyline. Something that took us away from the plotline for a second, something that helped us to break away and do other things, focus on other objectives, and just do more with the game. One thing that people have a major problem with in Pokemon in general is the fact that it's just so linear. You go from town to town, you do gym battle to gym battle. It's like there's not a lot of extra in between, and the wild area helped that out a little bit, but I feel like stuff like this, these little side missions, if it was just sprinkled into the game naturally, instead of being this end game DLC, if it was just sprinkled in naturally to the flow of the entire game, it would probably make the entire experience that much better. Because the thing is, I know people like to say that Pokemon is a game that is mostly geared towards children, and sure, you know, we could say that, we can absolutely say that's true. But I really think that Pokemon needs to stop focusing on trying to appeal to just children and stop trying to think that they're the only thing that's out there. Because at the end of the day, Pokemon is a JRPG game, but it's just a very weak JRPG in comparison to a lot of other JRPGs out there. But clearly they have some sort of an idea of what people want to see, because with this expansion, they definitely add things that a lot of JRPGs are starting to add themselves or have had for, I don't know, the past couple of decades. And yeah, I mean, I'm playing games like The Witcher 3 and I'm playing Skyrim, and again, you know, those games are a little bit bigger games. You can't always compare them to Pokemon, but the thing is, those are games that I get into and I can't seem to get myself deep enough into the game because there's just so much to do. It's so expansive to the point where I can just go on and on and on playing that game. It's to the point where people who have beaten that game are very far and few between because they're just so expansive. They're so rich and full of life and so full of content. And I don't know, man, I just feel like Pokemon could really take some notes from that to make their next games that much more expansive, because this is the type of thing that people want to see. They want to be enthralled in these games and just thrown in and just go through them as long as possible. Not even as quickly as possible, but as long as possible. Like, I would love to just get caught up in some story missions while playing a game and then just get lost in it for hours and hours at a time and not really feel like I need to get to the end of the story or complete the 8 gym badges or whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's my little 2 cents about what I hope they do for any games going forward, and that's definitely something that they're definitely doing well right now with this DLC. I can definitely see that they are doing something right here. Overall, I'd say this part of the expansion will have me playing the game for at least the next few weeks, and that in and of itself is pretty good to me. But what did you guys think about the Crown Tundra, or if you played it at all, you had to have played Isle of Armor? So tell me what you think about the entire expansion in the comment section down below. And also don't forget to follow me on Twitter where we can continue the conversation. And also, hey, don't forget to subscribe because I am starting to do streams on this channel. I just did a test stream. It's probably not uploaded at this point. I'm probably privated it by now. But going forward, I am planning to do more streams on this channel, so definitely subscribe to be notified of when I am doing streams. And that is all for today. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.